cute stuff outside of the Wukong ult. I mean, the Nami ult's going to be fine, but you don't suddenly start running to your whole team going, I just stole this ult. It's not like it's a Galio ult. It's not like it's a Camille ult. It's not one of these game-changing ultimates like a Sejuani ult, which is a common one that's being stolen at the moment by a lot of Silas's, right? That's, I would argue, honestly, weirdly enough, the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks have some of the ults that Silas would like to steal in this spot, like the Hecarim ultimate and the Nautilus ultimate, right? Like, these are the kind of ultimates where you get out on your Silas, you just ult, and you sometimes win a team fight because you stole that ult. They don't quite have it. I think that's a good point, but we'll have to see. Junglers are currently just splitting. No one's invading. I feel like from both these teams, we're not going to see anything too spicy for at least the first match or two. I think we're going to see a lot of discipline and respect given.
I think that is a very fair bet when it comes to the Hawks. And Sengoku very much going to be going for that point cover, that sort of split up, that nice and standard. No early invades, but we will at least see the split coming on out. It'll be a top to bot clear for once and vice versa for blank here. So definitely going to be once prioritizing that early aggression lane as we see the Twitter check-in from the Japanese crowd. And you know what? I can't help but agree, Swan, when it feels like you assess the styles of these teams and the way that they're not either of them really ones to push the tempo. Softbank Hawks draft just feels so much more comfortable as we already see a nice little hook coming in from Rhina, but that's going to be the return damage coming down. The electrocute goes out. Now fighting in the wave is vital though, so it has to back up, and I expect it's going to keep getting really frisky down this bot lane. This Lucian Nami wants to get ahead.
Yes, absolutely, and they plan on getting that ahead by any means. We will fight you over any CS, because actually we always win the trade when we fight over CS, because I have a Nami, you do not. So they will want to fight, they're going to play disciplined, and Vital and NT are pretty limit break players. Like, if they think they can do it, they will go for it. They've got level 2. Rhino and Marble know now that they have to fully respect and have to play back, because there's just more damage, and that's a huge power spike just going from level 1 to level 2 for Nami Lucian, because as you mentioned, early game is where they want to be, late game is not where they want to be, outside of just random cullings at level 18 where it feels like you just melt like a random champion sometimes, depending on builds. I do hope we get to see Vital go Kraken Slayer. I'm getting really sick of people keep not doing that, and we get some really weird Gale Force spots. It's for utility. I don't think this is a spot for it, so I don't want to see it, especially when Dolina specifically is on that Nautilus.
Swan, brain release happy chemical when dash. When build dash on top of kit dash, I have 2 dash. Thus my math is superior.
Make brain happy.
My math is superior to DPS numbers, as we do see Vital nicely dodge out on a little dredge line from Rhino there, as continuing to get the piercing light damage down as well. They secured the bounce off of that level 1 push, so they have the XP lead for now, and they're getting things nice and set up right where they want them ahead of once coming down. They could try to force something, but it looks like they're actually going to push again. They're just bringing once in around the crab. Maybe they back them up before they take their resets, but if they can let this crash off, they'll get a nice bit of early tempo for themselves as Marble's really falling behind CS, but there's the flash. What? There's the passive coming out. Hecarim speeding on in. That's the dredge line to bring them back, and that should be the first blood going down on Enti, although Rhina will waddle away with his life. Enti living for so long, but now Vital's in the danger zone. He is in the crosshairs as Blank will pick it up. That's a world champion jungler, ladies and gentlemen, finding the Hecarim pushback. I don't think there's too much more he can do, but he's already done enough. First 2 kills over to Softbank Hawks.
Talk about threading the needle and having it pay off. Blank, you absolute MVP, and you defined it by saying, yeah, he's a world's competitor. Blank is just one of those players where he comes along and changed it. He did it back in 2020, damn it, and he's doing it again and changing everything for this wild region. Coming out of the mist, completely out, and this was honestly partly set up by Marble, landing their Graviton, taking NT so low, and then look at how long they just leave the Nami there to farm. Obviously, Blank has to just take this kill. There's no way you can actually see it over to Marble, but there's a lot of discipline. You can tell the comms there. Hawks are all together on the same page. We're going to have a series here, Dodge. They're going to fight, and Nami Lucian, they're down. They're losing now. Well, technically.
Yeah, I'm sure the gold is still not too bad individually just because of that CS lead that Vital was able to build up, but I think it's a critical point you point out here, Swan, is that This was the lane that needed to get ahead, and they fell victim to the lane gank from Blank. And that's just the sort of experience from the extreme veterancy that Blank has. He knows what his champion exceeds at. He knows the angles that they aren't going to be expecting. When you have that super speed on a champion like Hecarim, you can make that lane gank work. Even when your team is pushed in and the vision control is not yours in that river brush, you can still come in and find an unexpected angle. Once was there, once didn't expect anything to go down, and now we look at the XP, and it is Kanatsu up in that top lane who's quietly, we haven't seen a lot of the camera angle up there, building up a lead for themselves, but generally, you know, both side lanes going pretty good for Softbank Hawks. Although, as I say that, there's the slice, there's the dice. Do we find the stun? I don't know if Kanatsu has the Shroud, is going to get stunned up, and that's the Conqueror fully stacked, and that's Renekton doing what Renekton does. That's a win Sengoku desperately needed up there.
Rookie of the split, video to only cover uses, Paz? Nah, not today, sir, not today. I'll come in with the counter pick that he decided he wanted into this Gwen that was, as we all know, always going top, because I forgot that the Silas was first rotationed on R1, but that's not important. It's just so great to see a player like Paz. Remember, he is one of the most storied players in the LJL, played on countless teams and made international success. He did it most recently on V3 Esports, who is a very different org now in all respect. He's done it in the past. He's gone to MSI. He's done these things, and he's a player that sometimes I doubt a little bit. Sometimes he's a player I'm like, I'm just not quite sure he's quite working out.
Oh!
He's fortuitous, but not like this!
Rhino with the max distance dredge line, setting it up for Blank again. Blank putting the hurt on his former team as Dasher trying to style on Jet. That's our all-pro first mid laner getting very low and forced back, but Jet still playing it fast and loose. Here comes Blank. He has the access through river with that water walking to just run up, and Jet has to respect it, has to get under that turret and back off. Yeah, is he going to go for it, though? No, just going to help push the lane for now, threaten a further dive if Jet wants to stick around. They will get this crash off, although maybe it's a Herald angle.
I think this is a fantastic Herald angle. It's coming up in 10 seconds. You've got your Wolf Camp you can go and do, or Raptors, and then once you can rotate around. I mean, hey, you've even got a good clear path, so you could actually, like, seed off here, get Kanatsu to come help you, get this Rift Herald, and then start, and then back, and then do a full clear. If, ideally, you want to try and get this Rift Herald into one of your solo laners' hands, but Paz gonna lurk, and guess what? Who's got the first rotation? NT is running out and is further into the jungle and is going to actually arrive at this Rift Herald before Reiner is. Or actually, no, they're going to be in sync. And now this is where the vision game comes in. Now this is where, does Sengoku actually want to commit to it? They're deciding not to. Marble got brought down, like kind of brought down because Reiner was coming down. They reset at the same time. This whole time, Vital is just farming. It's great that you've got a lot of gold on Marble at this moment in time, but Vital very quickly can make up for a kill with arguably one turret plating. There you go. That's one of the kills just completely nullified from a gold aspect. Not experience, not other things, but Vital is very much trying to keep himself in this matchup. And when we see those first item spikes starting to come in, you've got to see Sengoku pushing the trigger. You've got to see them go full Devil Trigger mode, man. Because if they don't Devil May Cry it, it could be over before they even get to 20 minutes.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, Swan, because that's definitely where I wanted to pull attention with these item builds. That's a serrated Dirk sitting in Vital's inventory, and he's on first strike. This is aggro Lucian coming on through. I don't even know. I mean, that can't be Collector first item, right? A serrated Dirk and a pickaxe, but what else does that build into that Lucian might pick up for themselves? This is an interesting one.
So, I mean, that's partly to try and assist with dealing as much damage as possible. I mean, you also have to consider Reiner went for first, where their first item went, right? They went for Ninja Tabbies. So it's like, you want to still be able to kill this Nautilus and not for them to just kind of stand around for too long. So you kind of have to build lethality so you can get through the armor, but at the same time, it doesn't really help you win the lane because Marble will just arguably do more damage because they will just build in the correct path and eventually they will just far surpass you, right? So it's good for the armor. It's also a very cost-efficient item, right? It does build in Collector, so it's not a completely useless item, but you can see how the sunk cost fallacy starts sinking in, where you're just like, I'm telling myself it's a good item because I want Vital to do well on this pick, but I'm not sure, and I think you might be onto something.
I mean, I get rushing Serrated Dirk if you're ahead, but it feels like mega copium coming through from Sengoku to pick up that Serrated Dirk on your 80 carry when behind, and now they're going to fall even further behind with this Herald popped in the bot lane. Marble going to get poked out a little bit, but that plate gold moving on over. That's a 2-0. Felios already accelerated towards what could be a Gale Force, towards what could be a Shield Bow, as, Enti playing with fire, not going to get hit by that dredge line while moving up that lane, but things really more explosive in this early game than I think we expected, Swan, and even more critically, going in the exact opposite direction that our series favorites wanted it to go.
Yeah, and I'm personally in a really interesting... This is personally a really interesting spot now, right? Because the bot lane and how everything was meant to go, it was meant to be Vital and Enti. If you looked at this and flicked it around, and theoretically, obviously, same CS as the current 80 carries, you'd be like, wow, they're in a great spot. But Marble hit their mythic first. They've gone for that, obviously, the Glacial Gale Force, which is going to have to be matched. I mean, I said I'd like to see more damage, but Gale Force is the meta, so I understand where we're going with this. It's gonna be important to see how this does transition through, and I don't know, I'm just a little bit worried that the fact that Lucian has died twice, like this is not how you play a mono red white kind of aggro tempo deck, because you have got the Wukong, you've got an Akali, you've got a bit of longevity, you can get into the later levels, but you don't want to get it to level 18. You just lose the game at that moment in time. Aphelios is gonna do too much. Nautilus ult will simply take out an important member, and Dasher will take over with this Silas. He will start healing far too much with Blank, with Kinatsu, and at some point it all just becomes a bit too much, and that's the inevitability factor that Sengoku are fighting against, and at this moment in time, honestly, Hawks look like the better team.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that comes off the back of Blank Marble sort of getting those alley-oops, right? Blank coming down and camping bot. Yeah. And I think it's a very good read by a very experienced player to say, we know their win condition is get ahead early through bot. We're just going to prevent that from happening. I think Rhina's hooks have been absolutely on point and have made that series of plays gel even better than they would have just with Blank forcing it. And look at this deep vision Softbank Hawks has behind the tier 1, spots Rhina coming, has to sweep it out. So now they know not to play too aggro. I mean, this is a clinic coming through. The only blemish so far for the Hawks is that they actually allowed a little bit of a window for that Mountain Drake to be taken, despite the fact they should have had bot lane priority. But now Jet getting a little bit frisky. Shroud going to keep him pretty safe. Doesn't have to fear, even though Blank is near.
And I think what's interesting is you can tell Hawks are playing with the aggression. They're playing with the more of the tempo in mind of the current game state. They're taking it slow. They know exactly how this is going. There is no reason for Hawks to play proactively. They can just play smart. I mean, just look at the first item, Blank's gone. It's complete Kentang. It's just like, no, we want to prevent any healing that's going to come through. Paz mostly, and then we can just try and make sure that the team is always going to be on the same page. They're probably now going to start playing around dragons. Why? Because they have the luxury of being further ahead than where they expected to be in this game. There was a good chance that Sengoku could have tried to have Dragon Soul's inevitability, but Dasher doesn't care.
Yeah, although this might get flipped on its head real quick as Dasher face tanking that calling. He does find the Kingslayer healing. Can he do it through the piercing light? No, he cannot. Vital critically low, but you know what? A win's a win, Swan. Enti right there in time. The last little bit of mana pushes that one over the edge. Softbank Hawks going to look to capitalize on mid now at the very least while attention was called bot, but not going to be able to crack that. And down a member right ahead of this next Drake spawning in means that Sengoku will have time to get in and set up and maybe stake a claim to contesting this one.
Yeah, it gives options, right? And that's the end of the day. I keep saying options, and that's what you need. That's what you want. When you're behind, that's what you want. Dasher obviously going from this play on Vital. It doesn't work out. The Gale Force coming out clutch there with also the dash then allows them to go forward. Gale Force forward. It will splash away Gale Force forward to try and get the extra damage. Works out
Just
for
insane.
Vital.
Reaction time from Vital there, too, to buffer that through the Everfrost as soon as he saw it. I mean, that was beautifully played.
Oh, yeah, and part of the issue for Dasher in that spot is you just don't expect the Nami healing to come out of the bush, right? Like, you expect you're just going to get your extra 5 seconds, right? That's all you're asking for, maybe 4 or 3 seconds, but you didn't get that and it didn't work out, so that's great for Vital, and that's a way that they can get back in. As it stands gold-wise, Vital and Marble are very comparable at this moment in time, and Dasher is actually basically comparable with Jet. So as it stands for the Hawks, they're very happy. They're competitive. They haven't fallen behind. If anything, they've gotten slightly ahead. And the impact on some of the players around the map has been pretty small so far. Once has been relatively quiet. Jet hasn't been able to roam and leave his lane. Paz did get a solo bolo over Kanatsu, but otherwise, when you come
just
to the laning phase,
things.
And Gwen has still got so much CS, right? She's got 146, third most in the game, and except people keep getting more, but are very high up there, right? So Kanatsu isn't falling behind out of this laning phase, so it's just this more inevitability factor. The one other thing I want to just bring up is we didn't see either, and more importantly, Marble go for the cult, right? As a gold efficiency item.
Jet, you naughty boy. You can't back there. You don't control the map. You can use both of your ults, but that's not gonna matter when you get CC chained like that, buddy. That's a greedy Akali getting taken down, and as you said, Swan, you know, Sengoku had a little bit of an angle back to delay things when they got that turnaround onto Dasher, but in the end, Softbank Hawks still building up the advantages, got the first turret, might lose their mid lane tier 1 here, but supplementing it with these other picks means that they are not worried whatsoever, still holding strong on that 2k gold lead, just waiting to start stacking up the Drakes, maybe even pick up a second Herald in the meantime. Smooth sailing in Fukuoka Softbank Hawks gaming land.
Yeah, and for the Hawks, that mid turret almost going down is kind of a whatever factor, because obviously they would plan to trade, hopefully, that turret for their own mid turret, so they just have more map control, right? They traded bot for top. Let's keep doing mutual trades, mid for mid, because if that's fine. And then at this moment in time, you're probably going to trade bot for top once again, just in the flip side. And then the map will be fully open, and we'll get to see whose team fighting will be better, because that is one of the clutchier factors that Sengoku have had throughout most of this split, in spots where they have fallen to deficits versus other teams we didn't expect them to maybe struggle against in the game. They do just team fight very proficiently around the map. However, that is the one factor that in almost every pre-game for Fukuoka Softbank Hawks, we've bigged them up for. So it's like, is Sengoku gonna still have that edge that the Hawks have had throughout all of playoffs so far? The Hawks have only dropped 1 game. Sengoku has only had 1 win. However, their strength of schedule has been completely different. These are facts, right? But like the strength of schedule and everything else is vastly different. As it stands currently, these two teams are very evenly matched. Who's going to take the defining moment, or have we already seen it potentially with some of the Hawks bot plays?
Yeah, it's very well possible. I mean, I would be remiss not to point out that despite the fact that Vital got pretty much camped and set behind very far early with 2 deaths, is still way up in CS on Marble right now, just being played around a little bit more, I suppose, by the team, but making the most of those opportunities definitely feels scarier than he should have any right to, although we keep bringing it up. It's that albatross. It's that elephant in the room that the scaling for Softbank Hawks, in theory, looks a lot stronger. Although, as you also point out, lots of team fighting tools for Sengoku. We'll see if they can put them to use. They're really trying to crack onto this mid lane tier 1 right now. It's hanging on by just a sliver.
Well, and this is just the Hawks now starting to play around. They've got advantages. They know they don't have any mutual objectives to worry about. They can just secure this tower. And then we can just rotate. I mean, Dasher has TP if we ever need him, so Jet is here to answer the calls, but this is very great. This is fantastic from Hawks. Like, they can play slow, they can get a Cloud Soul if they need to, they can gladly fight Sengoku at this moment in time. This is not a spot where they had to fight them. If the fight looks good, I imagine we'll see Reiner ult and Blank ult. If the fight doesn't look good, I don't expect Hawks to actually inject into it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the Shroud. He should be fine. Never mind, Dasher can just take his ult away. That's his best tool. The perfect execution is perfectly executed by Dasher, not by Jet. It was not even close for Dasher. I'm sure he's saying in comms right now. Gonna pick up another one on Jet, and that snowball keeps on rolling down the hill here, Swan.
Yep, that's the worst spot to be in, because who... Dodge. On the desk, I seem to remember that they said that Dasher had the highest DPM of
in
any
playoffs.
player.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just this
Outstriping
like
our
person
80
that's
carries.
scary.
Yeah, he's very scary. He outstripes the 80 carries, is a wonderful way to put it, which is crazy for a mid lane as he finds the Everfrost onto Vital. It's not going to have any follow-up quite yet. Rhino holding on to that depth charge is now Paz out of position, trying to sneak through this Dragon Pit. He does get the second proc of the dash there. Did get the first one through the Drake, but that's basically just starting up that Drake for the Softbank Hawks. Doesn't look like Sengoku are in a position to really contest, although it unleashes. It's going back to the center of the pit. Now they're bringing in the TP. There's the tidal wave. It's going to actually isolate Dasher in the pit. He has the stolen Cyclone. He's trying to find the teamfight effectiveness. Now it's Rhino engaging, but he's on the enemy Scuttle Relic. They can chase down as he eats all of the Culling. Hecarim does pick up the Drake, but that's going to be Paz in the back line. That's going to be the battle as Dasher onto Vital will find him. It is an absolute fiesta, but in the end, it does go 1 for 3 in the favor of Sengoku, although it might not be done yet. They're still looking for something. Dasher and Blank trying to continue forward, but instead going to back off. The team fight victory goes to Sengoku, but the Drake does get picked up by the Hawks.
Such a dirty team fight as well. So many things happening at that moment in time. And an important person to watch for the side of Sengoku is Vital, because he was a player that for the longest time didn't get touched. He had a full culling go through and it just basically churned through multiple members. Obviously, as this goes, this looks great for the side of them. However, the moment this dragon is happening, multiple members are not there. Reiner gets taken pretty low, and this whole time Kunatsu is getting destroyed by the culling as well, which then allows Vital to go forward, cleanses the moment Blank ults, but it's the same time as Blank ults that Nautilus lands his passive with the auto attack, which means he kind of gets a 2-for-1 with the cleanse, gets to dash away, doesn't get away, but there's a lot that comes out, and yeah, that's because Dasher is just able to just shut down and be such a controlling element. But ultimately, the side of Sengoku, they got multiple kills, and where their damage was going was far more important than where the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks damage was actually injecting into, because sometimes if you throw all your damage into a Renekton, what are you actually getting done at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely the case. The target selection really being pivotal for Sengoku there, and they've managed to cut this gold lead a little bit. You'd still really rather them be ahead at 20 minutes than behind with this comp, but definitely making waves. They are one of our top teams here in the LJL for a reason, and I think there are a lot of people who would argue that just because the composition looks favorable for the Hawks doesn't mean that we'll be able to stand up to the team fighting prowess of the likes of Vital, and we sort of saw that, right? It worked out okay enough in that fight for the Hawks because they got the Drake, they continued their stacking, but I mean, Vital was uncontested. It was a beautiful tidal wave from Enti to isolate Dasher to begin with to really set things up. This bot lane for Sengoku, even getting put behind early, still making fireworks.
Yeah, and this is part of the side of Sengoku where you just go, yeah, I think they're 3-1 to go in, right? Like, there's sometimes where you can't describe it, you can't really quantify why you think something's going to happen, you just think it's going to happen, right? And that's what Sengoku do bring to this game. While this whole time, I've been very much like, ooh, this is really bad for Sengoku. I'm saying it's bad for them. I'm not saying the game's over. Like, this is very much a game of numbers and inches and moments. Like, look at them. They're taking any standing gold they have for Sengoku because they're like, hey, next team fight is going to be a big one for us. We need to keep getting our items going. We need to keep spiking, and it's effective for us. But if you don't get there, you've just got to sit it. Items are well and truly, though, coming through. We've got all mythics all across the board except for Reiner, and I mean, that's because
support life, baby.
Yeah, I mean, having a stopwatch in any extent, but Kunatsu...
Yeah, he's getting dove on. He's using that needlework to sustain up really heavily, though. Does finally fall, but it takes all of these members. Now Rhina showing up. Not going to be enough of a steroid to keep Blank a ticking there. And that's what it takes from Sengoku. They have to bring 5, but they do get 2 for it. Marble found the big Moonlight Vigil to chunk them out, but I just don't think the kill threat is there. Does land the max distance Q, but not enough follow-up as the map a little bit split there. So Sengoku continuing to find these guerrilla warfare tactics, bring 5 men to a tier 1 dive at 25 minutes, and you know what? It worked out for him.
Yeah, and what was important as well is Jet got off the map as quickly as they could from the very beginning of this play. They get in, and then they recall back, and immediately are going to rotate around to the top lane so that this push that Jet was doing, they knew they couldn't continue doing it. However, this is all started from Paz just holding and going, hey guys, I got the turret, don't worry about it, I'll tank. And then there's a lot of discoordination between the two members of the Hawks here. I mean, ultimately, Blank should have realized, and the call should have been made, it's a lost cause. This tower's just going to go down because they ultimately get the tower and then get another free kill on top of it. Marble obviously attempts to try and rectify the play, but it was going to be pretty hard for the Aphelios in that exact spot with the guns they also had as well. If they had blue-red, maybe there was a chance, but even then, I mean, you can only do so much when you're still only a 2-item AD carry. We're not that 4-item kind of Aphelios 200 years where you can go, well, they can always just win a play because they can, right? We're not there, fortunately.
I think no, not fortunately for the SoftBank Hawks fans. And I think critically, when you do point out that it's not a 4-item or 3-item Aphelios even, if we look at this gold that's just popped up, it is actually a 3.5-item AD carry for the side of Sengoku, as now the engage coming on in. Rhino going to find the dredge line. That's going to be Aphelios getting the damage out. Red, white, don't fight. But look at Paz going down onto Rhino, though, to really get that health bar low, but it's a lot of low health bars for Sengoku as the backline continues to kite it out here. They're only hitting the clone, but that builds up those crescendos for Marble. Can he unleash them onto the face of Sengoku? I don't think they can, and that's another clean win coming out of 1-0. Kanatsu continuing to go forward, has to go into that shroud to continue to stay safe, but look at Marble isolated. Crocodile food, as that is Paz making it look great on the LJL staple, coming on out with the croc, and that should be the Cloud Drake going on over in the wake. Sengoku just out team fighting the Hawks.
Huge performance from multiple members. Honestly, once I complained that for the first 14 minutes, I hadn't heard from you. I hadn't seen you, buddy. I was wanting to make sure you're okay. You got your food? You got your dinner? I mean, I think he got more than his dinner in this play. The clone, the awful trickster he is to the side of the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks. Their damage graphs are going to be horrendous because they're not going to be at all accurate because the amount of damage that look how low he does on this. This is it's so beautiful.
It's a tragedy.
He did it in that dragon pit when the Hawks looked like they were doing pretty good in that fight until Sengoku ultimately won it. He's done it again, and this Wukong is just pulling mind games out of the blue. Ultimately, though, what the main issue here is Blank has already gone from this play. He is well and truly in the top side of their jungle. The pathing back from the rest of the Hawks members wasn't as ideal, so they're able to capitalize and get an extra kill for their time, and the dragon as well.
Yeah, and now things feeling well and truly Sengoku controlled. They're up 3k, 2.5, fluctuating a little bit here back and forth, but look at this damage coming out. And, you know, people like to get a little bit histrionic about Lucian's scaling or lack thereof. I know a certain content creator whose name rhymes with past Matto. No, that's not a shadow rhyme. A certain content creator whose initials are LS, who says that Lucian just doesn't scale, but Upset did it first, and now Vital's following in the footsteps. Who cares if I go down 0-2 in lane? I'm still going to hit 3 items first. I mean, this rapid fire cannon IE just absolutely cutting through SoftBank Hawks, continuing to carry these fights. Renekton doesn't scale? Tell that to Paz. He is not aware, as now Kanatsu, once again in the thick of things, has to go into the mist, but now maybe finally Hawks can find something, although the Cully completely eating through the horse. Jet going to get out but he still gets onto the backline with the perfect execution. Won't even die to the last of the needlework. Kanatsu over the wall is easy pickings. They're going to chase him on down. The blast cone leaves that poor doll behind. That is a toy that has been thrown out and discarded. And SoftBank Hawks just completely fumbling the bag here as the game goes on. Sengoku Gaming going to take the team fight and now take the Baron to top it all off.
3-0, and Sengoku seize an opportunity that was given to them, and they gladly take it. The sheer quickness at how quickly they collapse on this play and the go buttons are there. Honestly, it's fantastic, Dodge.
Yeah, it's a bit of a split fight. Once again, this is just what the scuttlebutt that keeps hurting SoftBank Hawks, right? They look for this engage angle, but Blank basically completely isolated, gets chewed through, and once again, Marble just has no peel, so it's easy access for the Akali, for the Wukong to completely eliminate your big team fight damage threat, and then the rest of this is just an errand, right? It's just a chore. Like, this is a predetermined outcome for the rest of these players to fall, and that's just the free Baron coming on up.
And I love that you actually highlighted Marble in that, because he needs to be a lot for this team, and he just wasn't in a spot. It's this mispositioning, even being slightly out of the way. I mean, you saw how quickly Vital and Once immediately jumped on Monkey Bonk with the Q, empowered Q with Vital as well. Like, so much damage just came out of nowhere with the Gale Force forward. Like, they knew exactly what they're doing. They've still got
Blank.
Flash and Blank. You can't keep getting caught out, because that's the first member that fell in that fight you just covered. Like, he has been the player that you can make for the Hawks, but he can also break you, Hawks. And it is well and truly because of how much you live and die by his success. And it's very reminiscent for when Blank used to play for Sengoku. If Blank had a bad game, sometimes the team wouldn't work. And it's weird how it's playing out in this series right now.
Yeah, I mean, it rhymes. It's like poetry. The stanzas once again repeating as Blank's so effective in the early game, so active, put the gold into Marble, where Softbank Hawks hoped they were able to get ahead, and now both of these players faltering as it goes later, have to just watch their base begin to crack. Blank, though, yeah, he was looking for something, but it just feels like Softbank Hawks have missed their mark. They've missed their time. We thought that the inevitability was on their side, but now down 8K, staring down the barrel of this purple worm in the control of Sengoku. Their inhibitor is just going to start to crack and fall, and it might be all she wrote for Softbank Hawks unless they can find something really explosive and tricky here in these coming minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Marble is also 2 levels down at this moment in time, so the damage spikes between these two AD carries is just rather vast now. It's not even comparable. So you've got an Aphelios that is trying to get there, but they're going for it now. They've found it.
Yeah, I mean, Rhina found the hook, but look at Once unperturbed into the backline, free to Cyclone to set it all up. Paz also going to dive in. This dive comp so nasty as Jet will finish it off. Stylish with the time freeze under the turrets. Does die in the Shroud in the end, but that still should be the game-winning fight, as Blank can do absolutely nothing. They're going to grind him up and turn him into glue, as Sengoku Gaming completely shrug off the early aggression of the Hawks. They shrug off a bad start, and they still find a dominant 32-minute win here to begin this series.
I mean, this is a fantastic performance, and what's great to see for the side of Sengoku Gaming, it is that comeback that you mentioned. It's the fact that Vital was 0-2 but had 20